going since 3 some odd time, I think, Eastern time.
Now remember, he can get, they've got that long idea, and he's trying to speak as long as possible to delay the actual vote. And there's one question we all should be asking: what underwear is he wearing? And what I mean by that is
because they can't leave.
Yeah. So
they
what
wear
I'm saying
diapers.
is, yes, I want to know.
Yep.
Did he go depends? And so, how long is he going to speak? It all depends.
It all depends. Well done.
Thank you.
We'll see if Brittany Pedersen can get home to her family.
Yeah. She just brought him with her like last time.
Yeah. Hakeem Jeffries now interrupting her weekend. And Brittany's crying, by the way. If you want to go to x.com/Jeff Hunt, you can watch that video of Brittany. She's frustrated she had to get on an airplane. Let's go to the phone lines. Francis Golden. Good morning, Francis. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, guys. Happy third.
Same to you.
Hey. Okay, just on an aside, I think Hakeem Jeffries probably contacted Mitch McConnell to see if he could get a hold of his stadium buddies to be up there and contacting people and talking for that long, because we know Mitch McConnell wears stadium buddies. I mean, it's got to happen. We've seen him soiling himself.
Yeah.
As far as Brittany Pedersen crying, cry me a river, she can carry her kids around like a backpack, apparently. And draw attention, but if she doesn't have the kid to draw attention as a backpack, like a human shield almost, she might be tearful. I get it. I mean, it's a terrible state of affairs. Hey, I actually, I'm fairly familiar with the large level 1 trauma center here in Denver, which is actually a state entity, not a city entity, but and how it has to deal with a lot of this stuff. And the bottom line is all of this is diffused out over insured losses because they have tons of uninsured losses, and nobody wants to pay for any of it, and they can't refuse anybody treatment. And so what you end up with is every gunshot wound or other thing that you tend to, if you're going to get a gunshot wound, you tend to not have insurance. Let's put it that way. And you get dropped off at the door with a note, attached to your little lapel saying, please take care of my knee, uninsured. Some of them are illegals. Some of them are not. It's all an absolute mess, and it's all diffused out. And every time you look at what you pay for health insurance, whether through an employer or an employer takes a look at it, this is where it comes from. And it's a disaster. And it bothers me to hear that all these people talking about, look, illegal immigration, anybody who's on Medicaid as an illegal immigrant hasn't paid anything even close to covering their losses. It's not even the idea that illegal immigration in some way pays for itself through taxes is absurd. And half of it is on the employers who employ people like this because they don't withhold. They call everybody independent contractors when they're not. They don't. There's so much blame to be diffused around here. There's not one side that's 100% right, one side that's 100% wrong. But I can tell you what is in the crystal ball in the future is this all migrates down to single payor system because basically health insurance or health care has gone so expensive. There's almost no way else around it. And you know what? You do get as good a care in Mexico. You do get as good a care in other countries. It's a big myth that you get somehow really, gold standard care here as opposed to somewhere else. It doesn't work that way.
But don't you have, Francis, don't you have the option to get gold standard care here, whereas in Canada and Mexico and the rest of the places, you don't necessarily have that option?
Healthcare and Kaiser people, no. Everything you get from Kaiser, United Healthcare on your preferred provider list, everything else is basically the same that you would get in another country. There's no question. If you
like general care, your physicals, those types of things.
You can pay for anybody. I mean, you can pay for. Yes, there is such a thing as gold standard care, and in this country, you got to pay for it. And it's not health insurance. Believe me, it's not health insurance.
Yeah, it's the concierge insurance.
Right, the concierge style. But if you go to full socialized medicine, though, you're starting to give up that option. And I know it's not fair, but
not
life's not
necessarily.
fair to everybody.
No, that's not
I don't
true.
think you're giving up the option. Why not? Why can't you just go pay out of pocket for anything?
Yeah, many countries have that have socialized medicine systems.
It's a matter of
secondary
safety
insurance.
net. It's not a matter of what you can afford otherwise. I mean, that's the problem with all these uninsured losses, uninsured things, uninsured people, is that the loss is spread out. It does cost hospitals. It does cost medical providers a ton of money to have to treat uninsured people.
Correct.
And all that is borne on insureds, not uninsureds, insureds.
Correct.
And so that's the bottom line. And so if you look, people carp and complain about the Obamacare and things like that, but the idea was correct. Force people to get coverage, and you will actually save money in the long run because you're not giving uninsured treatment to everybody, which costs double, triple what it would be if it was insured under any standard. It's ridiculous. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of money that is hemorrhaged by, and this is what the large local level 1 trauma center is.
Correct.
They are basically a charity. They are a charity. Do people understand that?
Yeah, and it's
what they are.
But it's a forced charity upon other people. And to your point, Francis, we're running out of money. I mean, the city of Denver, because of the hospital there, what is the name of that? City Health or whatever. The hospital that is required to take anybody that comes, and the city will pay for it.
As our other hospitals, by the way.
It's broke at this point. The city's broke. I mean, it's laying off employees.
But that's not a city loss. Look, get over that, because Jeff, that's not on the city budget. It's not. It's a state entity. The municipality.
I don't think that's true. I think the city does pay for that. No,
it's created by statute under Colorado law. It's not. It used to be many years ago under the rubric of Denver. It's not. It's not a budget item for Denver. But regardless, it functions as a charity. Basically, at this point, that's what it is. And look, there's plenty of other level 1. Well, there's not plenty. There's a few other level 1 trauma centers around the state. They don't handle the traumas that the local level 1 trauma center handles. Matter of fact, they'll chopper people to the local level 1 trauma center, flying by multiple other level 1 trauma centers because they can't handle it. And all of these different hospitals, they can't turn people away. And nor do you want that, because literally if you do that, if you allow that to happen, whether legal or illegal, you literally have people dying in the streets. And, by the way, just an aside here, when our progenitors were immigrating, there was virtually no process whatsoever. I think you just had to not be disease-ridden and stay here for 2 years. The process now is impossible to get over for an illegal immigrant, or near impossible, or an immigrant who wants to immigrate here legally. It takes like 10 years.
Correct.
And so instead of carping about who is or isn't an immigrant, because it's obvious that if we look at our progenitors, are immigrants of some flavor, instead, how about working on the process that exists now? Just throwing that out there, it would make some sense. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox.
No, Francis, you're fine. I mean, so what I was talking about was Denver Health. 60% of Denver Health's revenue comes from Medicare and Medicaid. 4% comes from the city and county of Denver. But we've created a system, Francis. We've created a system where somebody can cross the border illegally and up until about 6 months ago, not really face a consequence for it, come to America, get quality health insurance or health care that was paid for by somebody else in this country. This country's in debt. This country's overtaxed. And we had a system that just provided that. It's not fair to Americans. in order to do that. And I understand the system's broken, but I don't think you just double down on it. Francis, I appreciate the call. We've got to get to news and comment with Blake Olson. But phone lines open. Join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Here's the headline coming from the Denver Post. 21,000 undocumented Coloradans could lose Medicaid coverage under the Trump tax bill. The bill would penalize states that cover undocumented people, bar legal immigrants from individuals' insurance subsidies. We'll get into this hour, as well as $70 million being cut from K-12 funding in the state of Colorado that was going to English learners and migrant students, as well as teacher training and after-school programs. Do you support this? We'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. Text us at 720-819-5115. Now it's time for News and Comment. Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning, Thursday, 66 as we get ready for the big holiday weekend, and partly cloudy, plenty of sun out there in Denver and up and down the Front Range. Expecting a high of 93 today. News is presented by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Now is the time to stand with Israel. Call 800-301-1188. That's 800-301-1188, or go to 710knus.com and click on the big red Stand with Israel banner at the top of the page. Our top story, Hakeem Jeffries still listening to his head rattle, I believe. I just lost the video, but trying to delay the vote. The final vote expected soon on the one big, beautiful bill. House Republicans have been working through the night to get members to vote for it. The overnight vote to begin final debate was 219 to 213, moving the bill to just one more vote away from landing on DJT's desk.
Hakeem Jeffries is looking rough right now, man.
Is he?
I'm over at C-SPAN checking it out.
Okay, and, now I can see it.
He's been going now for, I think, 7 hours or something like that.
Since 3, so what is it, 8? So about 5 hours.
Yeah. So I get back and forth with the time difference, but
right.
This is the last thing they can do at this point. Is just send Hakeem Jeffries up there to lay it all out and pee in his diaper and all that stuff.
And, I think J.D. Vance, I'm pretty sure he just posted something on X that said, I was kind of up in the air on the big, beautiful bill, but then I heard Hakeem Jeffries talk. And I'm all in on the big, beautiful bill now. I gotta find that post. I think that's funny.
Yeah, he texted this. GOP congressman just texted me. This is JD Vance. I was undecided on the bill, but then I watched Hakeem Jeffries' performance, and now I'm a firm yes.
See, that's the way I look at it. At this point, I mean, come on, we could be. I mean, if DJT didn't win in November, we could be a full-on communist country right now. So I'm all for this bill, whatever.
Here's Politico. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' Magic Minute speech has been going on for more than 5 hours. It's Democrats' fight to delay the passage of the Republicans' mega bill. He's been speaking since 4:52 a.m. and has read through several binders of notes. The Democrat leader has name-checked Purple District Republicans whom Democrats are targeting in next year's elections. Democrats aren't saying when Jeffries will stop. He's more than halfway to breaking the all-time record for the longest House floor speech, set by then House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy in 2001. McCarthy spoke for about 8.5 hours to delay the passage of Democrats' social spending legislation. Party leaders are granted unlimited speaking time on the House floor. So he could just keep going.
Did that binder happen to say Karine Jean-Pierre on the front of it?
He's going to circle back.
Brush off the dust.
Binders full of women. I have, dude. I was working for Mitt when that happened, and,
really?
And he did the debate. You remember? And he's like,
I
got binders full of women that I looked at hiring, and people are like, you have binders full of women?
I forgot about that. Wait a minute. I thought that wasn't true about LDS having numerous wives. What?
Good.
All right, 47 is calling for the head of the Federal Reserve to resign immediately. Too slow. Jerome Powell hasn't lowered rates, and DJT is livid. The president, Trump, planning on talking to Russian President Putin this morning. I think it's their sixth conversation. The monthly employment report is beating expectations with the number of new jobs created in June. The Labor Department reports non-farm payrolls increased by 147,000 last month. 21-year-old Jacob Blackman is facing vehicular homicide and other charges after a deadly motorcycle crash in Denver on I-25 last Thursday near the I-70 interchange. 19-year-old McKenna Angelilo Smith died in the crash. Blackman told police he was traveling between 120 and 140 miles an hour when he lost control of the motorcycle. New court documents claim Kilmar Garcia was beaten and tortured while in an El Salvadoran prison. New details of his prison stay came out Wednesday as a part of a lawsuit filed by his wife, who was beaten by Garcia, against the 47 administration. Sean Diddy Combs will stay in jail until sentencing after he was found guilty of transporting people for prostitution. He was found not guilty of the most serious charges against him, including racketeering and sex trafficking. Journalist Liz Crokin with Benny Johnson believes there's overlap with Diddy and Epstein.
These rings are international, and they were trafficking victims across this country, all over the world. I do believe that Diddy was involved potentially with trafficking migrant children at the border because one of his security guys bought a huge piece of property at the border down in California and the Mexico border. So, and what's happening right now? You just went to Alligator Alcatraz. Well, who are they sending there? Pedophiles? Sex traffickers? When you have someone like Jeffrey Epstein or Diddy, you're not going to necessarily see Diddy or Jeffrey Epstein at the border grabbing migrant children to traffic them. They have foot soldiers. And who are those foot soldiers? Those are the low-level members of the cartel.
Dirty Diddy. Rockies lose to the Astros 5-3 today. 1:10 first pitch at Coors Field. 64 in Westminster, 65 in Lone Tree, 66 in Denver. The Jeff and Billy Show continues.
Be a little less snarky. I know, you're right. That is a problem that I have. I'm sorry.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The deeper monsoon moisture stays just to the west of us today. There'll be some showers and thunderstorms over the mountains and foothills and west of the divide, while sunny and warm east of the divide, highs 90s, low to mid-60s tonight. Low to mid-90s Thursday, but for tomorrow and for Independence Day Friday, better chances of afternoon and evening thunderstorms returning. Low to mid-90s Thursday. 4th of July, highs will be mid-80s to near 90. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. The phone lines are hot. The text messages are hot. Bill and I were laughing because we thought we'd just kind of slide into the weekend. And, man, we were going out with a roar. Love all the engagement. You all are awesome. We're talking the big, beautiful bill. We're talking cuts that are coming to Medicare, Medicaid, or not Medicare, but Medicaid, and cuts coming to education as well. Trump administration is going to withhold $70 million in K-12 school funding from Colorado. The money was targeted for English learners, migrant students, teacher training, and after-school programs. And looks like that may be coming down our way. Text messages on the big, beautiful bill. This is 8438, Bill. Hey, on a funny note, I'm a potter. So this person makes pots. Yesterday, I told everyone that we should be making the great, big, beautiful bowl. And I did just that.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic.
You guys are fun. Andrew texted in, Jeff, do you and Blake actually like this bill? Or are you just happy it's making the Dems mad? There's aspects I like about it. There's aspects I don't like about it. But overall, I would vote for it. And I am thrilled to watch Brittany Pedersen cry on camera. Makes me very happy to see. Vote Republican and make Brittany Pedersen cry. Let's go to the phone lines. Ben Morrison. Good morning, Ben. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Yeah, hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, so first of all, Jeff really needs to do a brush up on immigration law and actually know what is real and what's not, because he is very misinformed on a lot of this stuff. We didn't really have any immigration laws. Our first ones happened in 1790. And basically from 1790 till 1875, it was, are you white? And as long as you could get here, it was like tag, where you're like, base, got it. 1875 is around when we started passing our first immigration laws, and mostly what it restricted was if there was a history of anarchy, there was a history of prostitution, there were some things against Asian immigrants, where they didn't want those people coming over. Then we didn't really have a whole lot of changes until the early 1920s. In the early 1920s, they started promoting people from Western Europe, because there was a growing aspect of anti-Semitism that was also happening in the U.S. and other Western countries around the same time. You know, Hitler was going crazy over there. We just didn't go that far as they did. But like Henry Ford, for example, is a famous anti-Semite who published some papers and wrote a book called The International Jew, The World's Problem. So that was going on. And then we didn't really have any other immigration laws until 1965. And then in 1965, Kennedy, or no, that'd be Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson, I guess at that point, because Kennedy was assassinated in 63. So Johnson passed that, but that was a priority of Kennedy. And that's kind of the main laws that we've had up until then. The first Bush did some kind of revisions on that in 90 or 91, but wasn't anything major. So we haven't really had any changes in the last 30 years. And the provisions that were set down in 65 make it very onerous for people to get into the country. And what a lot of people from the MAGA community don't realize is these people generally aren't eligible for any government benefits. They don't get Social Security. They don't get Medicare. There's some Medicaid programs that they might qualify for, you know, and like some people were talking about, you know, if they get admitted to a hospital, there is a requirement for hospitals to provide care to get them to the point where they're stable and get them out of there. But if you get in a car accident, you know, you don't have your health insurance information handy if you're unconscious and get dragged out there. So that happens with everybody, whether they're illegal or not.
So I'm trying to, what's the point? The point being we should continue this process? We should adjust the process? We should have open borders? What's your point?
We should adjust the process, because right now the current immigration system is, I forget if it's 4% or 6%, but we have an immigration cap on who's allowed into the country per country each year. And I think they're called E3 visas, which are the lowest form. I don't know if I have that name right, but it's around 40,000 a year for people that don't have it's unskilled labor basically. So people that would be coming over here to work construction jobs or, you know, work in the fields or things like that. We allow 40,000 of those over here legally, and there's a cap that we only allow 4 or 6% per country that come in through there. So if you're looking at countries like Mexico, they have more than 4,000 people that are trying to show up here. So we need to probably update that system and make it a little bit easier, because I've been around a lot of Central Mexico, a lot of Central America, Guatemala, Panama, Honduras, and I look at like the living conditions down there, and they don't have anything to lose by coming up here. They don't. Like, I went down to.
So help me understand. You think we should have more immigrants in America?
Yes, I do.
And
I'd rather deport the fat guy with the MAGA hat on a rascal scooter that's doing nothing for me, and I'd rather take Juan in, who's willing to work 20 hours a day, for dirt cheap wages, and raise his family. I'd rather have him here than some of these people that we have now, because most of these people are not causing problems.
Your immigration status or your American citizenship should be based upon how somebody works.
I think if they're working and they're contributing, I don't think that's a problem. I think that's a benefit to the United States. If they're hard workers and they're coming over here and they're willing to do stuff, I'd rather go after some of the employers that are, going after some of these, that are violating these laws. And I'd rather have the people here that are willing to work and work hard. That's what I want.
It sounds like, Ben, you think we should kick people off of welfare rolls, right? So if you're not working and you're collecting some sort of social service benefit, we should kick you off that.
It's circumstantial. It depends. There's different variations. So this is the thing that MAGA people always try to do, is they try to deal in these worlds of like absolutists, where they don't get into like nuance of what the situation is.
We're talking public policy. You just said to me that a fat MAGA person you'd rather have deported than one who comes up here and works hard. And I'm just wondering, okay, so it sounds like to me that if someone is able-bodied and lazy and collecting some form of government benefit, we should kick them off the welfare rolls.
Yeah, I'm honestly okay with that if they're, if they're not contributing, but it also depends on nuance. But it depends on nuance. Like, what's the situation? Are they caring for somebody? Are they pregnant? Are they, there's a bunch of different variations on that enter into the equation.
We come up with that in our welfare policies. And one of the aspects of the big, beautiful bill is getting work requirements into Medicaid. So if you're going to collect money for health insurance, and you're able-bodied, you should be working. Sounds like you would support that.
Yeah, but it depends on the situation too. Like, what's able-bodied? How do you define that? Do they have schizophrenia? Do they have bipolar disorder? Because those people might be technically able-bodied, but are they dealing with situations where they might cause a danger to themselves or others, like when they're on the job, like operating heavy machinery that you may not know about? So there's other factors that go into this stuff.
Ben, I got a question.
Your caller, Francis, was good.
I got a question for you. If somebody comes to this country and their very first act in America, like stepping across the border, is one that breaks the laws of the country, does that make them a good American?
What you're trying to do is you're trying to peg me down on, if they cross the border illegally, that makes them a criminal immediately. Well, I know what you're trying to do, Jeff.
But didn't they break a law? We're talking about quality American citizens. So you said, for instance, Juan, who works hard but came here illegally, is a better American that you'd like to have around than somebody who's lazy and wears a MAGA hat. My question to you is, if his first act into this country is to break one of the laws that this country has set up, is that somebody that you want to have as an American citizen?
I'm okay with having some of those people here. Do you know what? Because I've seen the situations they're coming from, and it's not illegal when they come here and they claim asylum. If they come here and claim asylum, all of a sudden they are now legal until they get their federal court case. And that's something that MAGA has a hard time figuring out. You'd have a hard time figuring that out.
Ben, the example you used was poverty. Should somebody be able to claim asylum because they're poor?
Yeah, also there's issues where there's violence. Like, there's a lot of gang situations that are down in those areas. I mean, I was down in Panama. I remember going over the border from Costa Rica into Panama, and you get into situations where all of a sudden the housing is literally sticks and blue, like Walmart tarps over buildings, and their toilets are buckets.
Terrible.
It's bad.
Why
So
can't
they don't have any.
Why
They don't
can't
have anything to
change
lose.
it? Why do we need to be the place where everybody comes as opposed to improving the countries they come from?
We don't have to be. There's some other countries that could step up too, and I wish more countries would do that. But
And do some of
I
those
think
countries have the
we're a
mechanisms.
country
That's the other part.
that's always been our philosophy. Generally, as a country, is we are willing. It's written on the Statue of Liberty. We are willing to accept the tired, the poor, the weak. All the people that are distraught through the world. And as long as they're here. It's not a law, but you know what? It's a general philosophy that our country has held for basically since the emergence of our country. And it's kind of despicable, like what MAGA's doing, with the fundamentals that our country was founded on.
But they're just acting to follow the law. That's all MAGA's doing. We're not making new laws up with regards to immigration. We're just actually enforcing the ones that exist.
Really? Birthright citizenship by executive order? They're not making new laws? Ruh-roh, Jeff. Ruh-roh.
No, it's not a new law. He's interpreting it different, but we haven't passed a new law that said, for instance, we're going to make the immigration system harder on people. Has that passed out of Congress?
No, because they can't. They know they can't get it. They'd have to pass the filibuster, and they don't have 60 votes that are going to go towards that. They know they can't get that passed. That's why nothing's happened with immigration since George Bush. They know they can't do anything to change it, and I advocate for change. And I think we should allow more people in, and we should make it. I think that's a bad cap, is to have 4% from every single country, 4% or 6%. I always forget what the number is, but to have 4% or 6% allowed in from each country, because when you have 40,000 unskilled laborers, 4% is not very many people. And that's what a lot of these people are. And they're not doing anything wrong. They're working in the hotel. Like, they actually have a lower violent crime rate.
They're not doing anything wrong?
They have a lower violent crime rate than U.S. citizens. That's statistically proven.
Hold on. You said they are not doing anything wrong. I think they got into this country the wrong way.
Yeah, and you know what? I just don't really care about that much, Jeff.
Yeah.
As long as they're working, contributing to society, I don't really care about that.
I think that's
I'd rather them pay taxes.
I think that's the crux of the issue here, and the cost too. Colorado's going to spend $70.8 million on health care for undocumented immigrants in 2025.
Well, wouldn't you rather have them pay taxes and be here legally?
Well, if they paid so many taxes, we wouldn't be in a budget problem.
Well, they're not paying taxes right now because they're undocumented. And if they did pay more taxes,
they weren't. Somebody told me they're paying into the system.
They pay payroll taxes, but if they don't have a Social Security number, they don't pay income tax.
Ben, this was a great conversation.
You don't know how this works, Jeff.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I think I do. All right, we'll get to more phone calls, Ben. It was a lot of fun. We just need to get to a break. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Man, we are having fun this morning. The phone lines are hot. Is Hakeem Jeffrey still speaking? Let's go. Yep, C-SPAN, check in live on C-SPAN. Hakeem's still going. Trying to do his last-ditch effort to, I guess, stop the big, beautiful bill. It's not going to work. Apparently, Republicans they got enough of them to get this across. Now we're going to deal with the cuts. Denver Post headline, 21,000 undocumented Coloradans could lose Medicaid coverage under Trump tax bill. $70 million from the Trump administration will be held to Colorado K through 12 schools. That money was used for English learners, migrant students, teacher training, and after-school programs. State of Colorado spending around $70.8 million on health care for undocumented immigrants. The point of the debate here is, should we be spending this money? Is it important as a Judeo-Christian nation to care for those in our midst, even if it means we have to cut in other areas? What are the alternatives? Do we let people die in the streets? Do we force them to go back to their other countries to get care? Or is it right to stop this because America's in debt, Colorado's in debt, Denver's in debt, and taking money from American citizens and spending it on people that shouldn't be here in the first place is immoral? What do you think? Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Stephanie, Idaho. You're on with Jeff and Bill. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I have a couple of comments. One is I'm also, like you, Bill, my grandparents just came here in the early 1900s from Sweden. However, when they did come here, they had to be sponsored from other family members. They couldn't come here penniless and expecting, God forbid, to live on other people's hard-earned money. That my grandfather would die first if he had to do that. It was pretty humiliating back then. So it's a different time we live in. These days, they're allowing a whole influx of people coming in from everywhere. It's not just from, as we all know, from South American countries. I work in the medical industry, and I see this every single day, those people getting onto our Medicare even, who never paid a cent into it. And there are a lot of them are the refugees that have just recently come in here. And yes, also the hospital systems are being used as primary care, especially in the ER rooms. And I see it every single day. And even though it's not always just the illegals, everybody is taking it for granted. So we do need to put
Well, Stephanie, why do you think people keep showing up at the emergency room at the hospitals to get care? Why?
Because they don't have insurance.
Yeah.
And they're using it that EMTALA law is totally being misunderstood. And it's only and I'm kind of opposed to that because I've worked in the medical industry all my life. I do medical billing and coding and revenue, and I see it every day. And the EMTALA law is only for if somebody is profusely bleeding or in labor. But I see people, and it's mostly people who do not speak English, go in there with children with bronchitis or a stubbed toe, and the ER is not turning them away. And I think they should, because they are not emergent situations. And if you compare the bill and Medicaid does have to pick up on those things, by the way, because the hospitals cannot go broke. And if Medicaid isn't the only one, it also taps into the federal Medicare budget will subsidize it.
Now, Stephanie, I got a question for you. Do you think, do you agree with Jeff's proposal in the 6 o'clock hour this morning about if those illegals show up at the hospital and they're illegal and they don't have insurance, should we refuse to treat them? They also then wouldn't be able to get care, theoretically, at any other doctor's office, etc. And Jeff said unless there was some sort of a charity. Is that what we should do? Just refuse to treat them?
Legally we can't, or morally. But what I do think we should do is just get them stabilized, but then they should be deported. I really don't feel that we have this obligation. Now, going back way into the history when all of our ancestors including the American Indians, went walking over the Bering Strait from Mongolia. They're not even 100% either. You know, we all came here from somewhere. And, you know, but we all paid our dues. We did not go rushing the doors in some other country and go, here I am, and now you owe me something. And I know that a lot of these people come in here and they're pregnant. They deliver a child a day after they get here, and that child sponsors their people on our welfare system.
I somewhat disagree with that, Stephanie, because when the baby can't sponsor the person per se, and I haven't seen a huge influx of pregnant people. I mean, again, when we were going through the election cycle, it was all about this immigrant crime wave. Those weren't pregnant people coming here to commit crimes with their babies. I mean, it was about men, and I had text messages and we had phone callers about this influx of, and I'm using the air quotes, military-aged men. And people were assaulting me saying, oh my God, Bill, how could you be so stupid out there when we all have these military-aged men? This is obviously an organized invasion. So I disagree that it's necessarily these pregnant people that are rushing into our country to have babies. No, according to text messages and callers, it's these military-aged men that are coming here to take over the country.
That's ridiculous.
I thought it was ridiculous, too.
What I'm trying to refer to is the whole medical system in itself. And there's many, many, many pregnant people that are not, the mothers are not here legally. And their children are being born here, and yes, they do sponsor. They do get on our system. They get a little Social Security card right at the time of birth.
Well, the babies
and
do.
I
yes.
thought,
babies, yes, but the babies can't affect the idea of sponsorship per se, because that has to be done by a legal adult. So until the baby turns 18. No,
but they are still given the Medicaid anyway.
Yeah, and
that's parents don't get on the Medicaid. But we are still paying now for another generation, and it goes on forever. I see it every single day. It's extremely expensive, and it really appalls me.
Yeah, and
here's
the core of this, Stephanie. Here's the core of this, Stephanie, that what many people in the GOP don't realize is that in many ways we already have a socialized medical system. We're just choosing to pay for it in the most expensive way possible. It already exists. It's not an issue of will we or won't we. It exists as you're telling us. People show up and we give them care and we take care of them. And then we pay for it in the most expensive way possible. So, again, yeah, it's basically what's happening.
That is, and that's why we have to stop the influx of all these illegals coming in the border. They should be sponsored like our forefathers were. And, you know, my grandparents came in here and they made money right away. They had to learn the language. There was none of this 50 million languages on your hospital thing, or you can get interpreters. And then we pay for that too. It's ridiculous. It is out of hand. And I think it's totally abused. And I think that if there is Medicaid and even the welfare recipients out there, they should get off their butt and get a job.
Yep,
you know,
there you go.
There's no excuse for it. And so if we're running out of people working, make them work.
Stephanie, sure appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
We may get a member of Congress on here, Bill. Right. Let me work. Let's go to a quick break here and then see if we can get a member on to update us on what's happening in Washington, D.C. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's great to have friends in high places because they can give us updates on what's going on. We're watching Hakeem Jeffries just continue. He's been going since 4 some odd this morning, Eastern time, and still speaking at the floor of the House of Representatives to try to delay the passing of the big, beautiful bill. And joining us now on the VIP line, Jeff Crank, Congressman from Congressional District 5. That's down in the Colorado Springs area. Congressman, thank you. Give us an update. What's happening in D.C.?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Jeff and Bill, thanks for having me. Nothing's really going on out here today. Of course, I'm kidding. It's been a wild 24 hours just watching this go. And of course, we had a very late night, kind of an all-nighter last night with all of the drama on the rule. The votes are there now, it appears, and as soon as Hakeem Jeffries finishes up his speech, I suspect we'll have a 5 to 10 minute speech from Speaker Johnson, and the question will be called, and we'll pass the one big beautiful bill.
Is there an over-under going on right now with regards to how long Hakeem Jeffries is going? Because he's now over close to 5 hours, and I believe Speaker McCarthy at the time, or House Minority Leader McCarthy at the time, had the record of 8 hours. So are you guys gearing up for a long day?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't try and go and break that record, and go just over 8 hours or whatever. I mean, I guess more power to him if that's what he wants to do. He's powerless to stop the bill. That's what happens when you lose elections and you're in the minority, is you're stuck with things like that, tactics like that, right? Just speaking a long time, as long as you can. I was down there for much of it this morning, and I just got tired of hearing the lies. I mean, it was just constantly just nonsense about how we're kicking all these disabled people off of health care and things like that. And just, there's only so much of that I'm going to sit and listen to, kind of disrespectfully, quite honestly, going after members. There's a House rule that you can't go after other members of Congress. He came very close to doing that several times, pointing out things. You're not supposed to talk about elections. He talked about Congressional District 8 in Colorado, pointed out Gabe Evans and said, the person who currently represents, Colorado 8 district, kind of implying that we're coming after you. He's sort of skirting it with me. I'm kind of losing faith and respect in Hakeem Jeffries because he's just being very untruthful down on the floor right now.
That's Congressman Jeff Crank. He represents the Colorado Springs area in Congress, giving us an update on what's happening in Washington, D.C. Now, Congressman, is this big, beautiful bill going to pass and be signed by the president, you think, by July 4th? Can they quickly, I'm looking at a process question here, can they quickly just take it right over to him, have him sign it, and it meets that deadline? Or is there a time period? What? Give us some insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, there are some logistics to it. I guess I probably really don't know all of the logistics. I know there are some to getting the bill, printed and in the format that it needs to be. I think there has to be a secretary of the Senate and the House clerk or something that sign it, those sorts of things. But they'll be able to get it to him if we pass it today. And that may be what they're trying to do. I mean, we've seen the tactics of over the last couple of days that Chuck Schumer was so powerless, all he could do was really change the name of the bill. Compared to having a majority and actually passing a bill like this. I will tell you, I think we shocked them. I think that they have all along thought that we would not be able to do this, that we would fall apart, that we wouldn't stick together as a caucus. And there were times where maybe I thought that myself, was a little worried that we weren't going to stick together. But I think they're in shock this morning. But that's why you see the kind of tactics that are being used right now. It's sad. I was literally answering phones coming into my office because there's a couple of liberal groups that are out there pumping calls into my office and other offices. And you can tell they come in waves, kind of an auto dialer that helps pump these calls in. And I was answering several of them myself. And, it's just people, I almost feel sad for them. I listen to their comments, tell them, that I appreciated hearing from them. But you hear some of the things that they're saying, and they're clearly just being about what's in this bill. People call and say, my daughter is disabled. She's going to be thrown off because of this bill. I had people talking about selling off public lands. That's not in the bill anymore. That was a proposal that, as you know, that a senator from Utah put in there. But it was not in the bill, and it isn't in the bill. But they're still believing that it is, and they're being lied to and used to get them emotionally hooked, so that they'll make these calls to try and get Congress turned in a different direction.
Gosh, I'd love to continue the conversation, but as a radio man, you know this. We're up against a hard break at the top of the hour. That's Representative Jeff Crank. Continue to follow him. He's given us live updates from Washington, D.C. on this historic vote of the big, beautiful bill. Congressman, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful 4th of July. Hopefully we get you home in time.
Thanks both for having me, guys.
Again, Representative Jeff Crank. We'll continue the conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNU.